That's interesting. There we go. It looks like it's being live streamed now.
Hello, everyone. Just getting the stream up and running on YouTube. Let me say hello in the YouTube chat. Just note that we are watching for questions, so please feel free to ask questions in YouTube, and let me comment that real quick. And today we have a really cool show. We have a contest that Terry Power and Honey Witcher crashed. And so it's really cool what they did and how they did it. It was a contest being run by Craig Campbell. And Craig is pretty well known. He's pretty good at what he does. And you know, spoilers, ultimately, you know, Craig won that contest. But the incredible part is at what cost? And so what do the fundamentals bring to the table? And I think that's the interesting side of the story, is what did those fundamentals do? And so I'm excited about this topic. Clint, did you hear about this contest at all?
Yep, I did. Madge was in Craig's group and he was participating in it. That's how I heard about it. And he was giving me, and we were just kind of shooting ideas back and forth on how we could win it.
Nice. Yeah, so it was a very short duration contest, which I'm not a huge fan of short duration contests, because when the duration is too short, it seems like the people who came prepared have the advantage, and then everybody else who joins in is scrambling. But other than that, you know, kind of what was this contest, Honey?
Hold on, you want to? What's the next slide? Because we got the
boilerplate
too. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I'm too excited by this topic. I like to get a little bit out there so people know what we're talking about. But all right, yeah, let's do the boilerplate. So do we have Carolyn? Don't know that we have her here. So we'll come back if she pops on.
Mm-hmm.
And SEO this week still hasn't returned. And my understanding is there's not an ETA yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Writing SOPs for a corporate agency. So fun, not.
Oh,
more like it.
Well, we miss your show and we want it to return. So we'll all just hope and pray that it comes back at some point, because it was a good show, you know.
So Clint, would a letter writing campaign help? You know, we'll organize.
Only if it's got green paper in it, then maybe.
Fair enough.
And let's see. All right, so we're back into the topic. So Honey, I'll let you kind of control this presentation. So this is a really cool one. So what do you think about what you did? Are you ashamed?
Well, I think that we really need to start with Terry, because he was the one that reached out and said, hey, do you want to participate in a contest? Do you want to start off that call that you made, Terry?
Sure. Like Clint, Madge had reached out to me to get some ideas and some help with winning this contest. And I said, well, tell me about it. He told me about the contest, and the two interesting parameters to me were, one, it was going to last 24 hours, and the 24 hours had already begun. And two, there were no rules, except for the what you had to do to win, but you could use any method you want, which was cool. And I thought about it and then thought, well, yeah, the problem was the 24-hour rule. So what can you do and get ranking in 24 hours? Well, that narrows it down a little. And as I thought about it, one of the things that obviously most SEOs can do within 24 hours is get a YouTube video up. And that made me think of Lee. And I figured it was a Thursday, middle of the afternoon. Lee was probably not doing anything anyway. So I reached out and said, hey, you want to screw around with something? And I might not have used that exact words, but
very close.
And he was like, sure, I'm in. What is it? So whatever he was working on was not nearly fun, apparently. And so I told him the parameters of this. Craig was having a contest in his mastermind directed at members of his mastermind, perhaps so they could learn something or try different tactics maybe they'd learned. I wasn't sure, not being a member of that mastermind. But I thought, the idea was to rank in Google Images for the term image SEO king. By the next day, 9:00 in the morning, my time, and this was probably 2 or 3 in the afternoon when we first spoke, and that there were no rules. You could use any method you wanted. So we brainstormed for a little bit on some ideas, and then thought, we'll touch base later. We'll try some things. And I personally had never tried to rank something specifically within Google Images. So I thought this would be interesting to try some things. I've done some things that resulted in an image getting ranked, but I'd just never done that with my focus. And as we were talking, Lee said, oh, you're now looking at the proud owner of imageseoking.com because the domain was available, which is all well
right. So that was sort of our strategy, was to buy the exact match domain. And then I got really busy trying to create a bunch of images with the
and that exact match domain had to rank by early the next morning.
Right.
So
or at least the images on it had to rank. The domain not necessarily, because the contest was for Google Images.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is when Terry and I were talking, we were brainstorming. I was like, 24 hours. What can you do? And because a lot of your standard SEO tactics go out the window in 24 hours because it's just the nature of the beast. So, and I started thinking about images. Honey was out running an errand, and she came back, and I said, hey, we got this emergency situation. And she goes, what? And I said, there's an image contest. And she goes, all right. And I said, and we own this domain. Let's go. So what was the initial strategy?
So we got the exact match domain, and we threw some content up on it real quick, and we got it indexed within a couple of hours. Actually, it was pretty surprising, because you're pretty much looking at the content that was on the page right now. It was a couple paragraphs and then a whole bunch of images, more than just the 5 that you see right there. There's probably 50. I think I made 50 images, all pretty much the same, different colors. I just threw them out really quick. Okay, and
so if you have the images on there, it's a brand new domain. It's not like something that Google crawls. How are you going to get the images indexed?
Well, I have a plugin that I use that indexes the images in WordPress. And that's what I did. Of course, I have all the image names are like Image SEO King multiple times. I have the image alt text has Image SEO King in it multiple times, maybe multiple times. And descriptions, captions, everything's all filled out, with the keywords. Mm-hmm. And then we also released a press release, about it that had our image on it also.
Are you
And that
willing,
was sort of our initial strategy.
are you willing to share what service you went through? I know that Madge is in the YouTube chat, so he probably used his service. Did you go through Madge's or someone else?
No, I used Press Advantage. We have an account through them that's already set up. So we just did a standard distribution of a, press release. That's just part of our service. We didn't pay any extra money for, a premier distribution or anything.
Yeah, so Madge used Magic PR. So
Yes.
that's the other service that I know of that was used in this contest. And we reached out to Craig Campbell to have him on the show. He normally has a show on at this exact same time. And rumor has it he's down with COVID. I think he shared that on Facebook.
Right.
And so we didn't hear back. So unfortunately, he can't share his side of the story or what he did in the contest.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that Madge is the one that won the contest.
Yeah.
Is that right, Terry?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And when Madge first mentioned this contest to me, I was like, well, you could do a press release. And he was like, well, the problem with a press release is getting it out there within that 24 hours. Because some services, they review it, they do this and that, and then they'll have it out there on Friday or whatever. And luckily, he has, a press release distribution service of his own, which was helpful in his case. But I didn't think press release was the way to go. So I decided I would use properties that I knew indexed quickly. And you're all familiar with an Ouroboros, the snake eating itself?
Yeah.
I consider it more of a snake feeding on itself, and like a link wheel does. So I put an article on a Google approved news site I own. And in that article, I embedded the Witcher's website, imageseoking.com. I also created a QR code for the term and put it on there, then tweeted that particular article on the news approved page, then went back to the article and embedded the tweet, then put that article on a patch.com site, and then went back and embedded that patch into that news site also. So they all rotate, we're sending links back and forth and circling each other.
So the somebody please crawl me strategy.
And they all got crawled pretty quick.
So to understand it at this point, you're both trying to win at this point, but correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, but you're also just trying to disrupt to see what is possible. So you did collaboration with another competitor to see if you can get that disruption. Is that what happened?
Not just the disruption, but also learning what will work in 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all educational because you have like less than 24 hours to get Google to take action. So you're grasping at straws and you're doing things. But there was collaboration. Normally that would be against the rules, but there are no rules, right? So
right. And I even mentioned to Madge the next morning, which was early afternoon for him as it approached. And he was like, I've got one more thing I'm going to do because Craig put out a press release. And Madge held off because his idea was the newest press release would win out.
Yeah.
So he would wait until, the closer time to do his press release with that purpose, which I thought was a smart idea. But I didn't, like I said, I didn't go with a press release. I just went with the linking all those properties that tend to index quickly. I did also take them each, those URLs, and put them through Google's mobile ready test so they get crawled instantly, and then sent them through my own indexer. And I can't say what did it, but Twitter tweets tend to index pretty quick anyway. Google News approved sites, especially ones that are established for a while, tend to do it well, and Patch also tends to index well. So they got indexed, and then I decided I didn't like the image I had in my article, so I took it out and changed to a different image that I had the background full of the keyword repeated, as well as the keyword on the image. So I ended up having an image in the Google Images that appeared nowhere else on the web. If you clicked on the link that image did not appear there on the page because it had since changed, but stayed in the Google Image Index, which I thought was kind of cool.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So you had a
the one page
phantom
that gets
image.
crawled, you could actually keep changing out the image and just let that page, flood the SERP, so to speak.
Yeah, so that's a evidence of links staying around after you've changed them.
Yeah.
Maybe not permanent, but that you can change things and rank something else. And in theory, maybe I could have every hour put a new image in there and had a dozen images.
Right. So here's what was interesting. Now, by this point, it's like late in the day. The image search, when you look at that on Google, has several of Terry's and several of Honey's are starting to appear on there. And then what happened?
Well, Craig, of course, reached out to me on Messenger, and he was just like, "Hey, you crashed our game." I said, "Yeah, I was wanting to have some fun." And he said, "I was calling out all kinds of people, and then I saw your name on your press release." He's like, "I was blaming everybody, and they were like, 'It's not me.'" And so he told me that he was going to have to up his game because, I was number one at that particular point in time. And of course, it was getting close to time for us to go to bed. So what had happened was my YouTube channel was popping and our press release was number one. And he was like, "Okay, now we're going to have to play. I'm going to have to get serious now on playing the game." And I thought, great, he's just getting up and now I'm going to bed. So he's going to have all night while I'm sleeping to get caught up. And that's basically what happened. We woke up the next day, and I think Madge is right here on top. And then this is, and then Craig Campbell's like second.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've dropped down to third. And Craig's also was boosting his YouTube channel. So it had moved up also.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about this was, he'd started to change some stuff, and then that's when Honey decided to put in some YouTube stuff, because everybody started copying press releases. So she said, "All right, if they're going to do that, let's play YouTube."
Yeah, so that was like our new strategy, was to get into doing more on the YouTube. So we put we made a bunch of YouTube videos, and we were just kind of poking fun at the whole competition about it, because the first one that showed up, in the search results for a while, because it was our first one, it was like SEO, image SEO king, how do you like me now? And it was just, just a real funny poking fun at people. And then we got into laughing about all the keyword stuffing, and it's like, oh, can you really keyword stuff? I mean, apparently you can. We were all over page one.
Video spinning is fun.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was great. We had a great time. And then I thought, oh, I need to do another press release, and do some social media stuff. So we threw another press release out there, but because it's not our own press release company, it got held up in needing to be reviewed. And so it didn't get released on time. It came out late, after the competition was over.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I don't like short duration contests is that yeah, if you can come prepared to a short duration contest, then it's all good. But anyone who finds out, on the day of is at a huge disadvantage.
For
But
those of us that found out later in the day.
yeah. So we see lots of SEO contests, and there is one at SEO Rockstars. That's the conference that SIA has, and it was a number of years ago. But they did a 48-hour contest, and what we learned during that contest is all the best tricks at that time were local. So if you needed to get to the top of page one at that particular, time a few years back, you had to have some local assets ready, and then you could be page one within the hour. A lot of that has since changed, but now what we're seeing is, this new evolution for like image SEO and things that can take traction within a 24-hour contest. But it's always interesting what ends up ranking, 2 weeks later. What if the contest had been a longer format? And I tend to find those a lot more interesting, but just a personal preference. What do you think? Sorry, I wanted to get Clint's opinion on contest duration.
I prefer them when they're longer because you can learn, I think, more evergreen stuff. But these are also interesting because a lot of this stuff is really useful for like newsjacking and that kind of thing. And you can throw all this at that and kind of piggyback on some of the interest that's already existing. So I guess there's a use for both. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, the standard, build out a website and craft the content, your internal linking, all that crap goes out the window in 24 hours because you're lucky if you get crawled in that period, let alone index. But I'm curious from Terry, because you were probably monitoring the SERPs throughout the later in the day. Did you also do some later tactics saying, let me try to squeeze, a little bit more juice out of my arsenal?
I went on to a gig site to see if anybody did backlinks that based on how quickly they'd finish them for you, sorted that way. And there were a couple that were, within a day, is the standard, I guess. And so I messaged a couple people and said, can you do them quicker than a day? Now don't get me wrong. I was looking at spending $2 or $3. It's not like I was, spending $50 or $200 or $1,000. And one person said, yeah, I can do them right. As soon as you submit it for an extra $1. I'm like, okay, cool. So I sent some links to the URLs I had, and then as soon as I got the list, which was probably an hour to an hour and a half later, I sent those to my indexer as well as put them all on a page that I knew would index. So, but I liked if you look at the results of the Google image search now, you notice different things, given that odds are nobody is still pushing those things. They're just continuing to change based on stuff that was done in a 24-hour period. So and I get tired of hearing, I shouldn't say that because somebody will hear me, but when a new person trying to get into SEO says, well, I get in trouble. I can't get a new client because they don't trust me when I tell them, pay me money every month and maybe in 6 months you'll see some results. And I'm always like, don't tell them that. Tell them you'll start seeing results, in a couple of weeks. It doesn't mean you're going to be at number one in a couple of weeks, but they should see something. And now there's a couple more, things we can do where you can show somebody results before you even have that sit down, from the time you set the appointment to the sit down, and say, just so you can see, we've got the ability to, we've got you something ranking in Google Images already, and we'll work on your website or whatever. So it was interesting to find, like I said, some things that would work within 24 hours that, I wasn't sure if they would or not. So.
Right. I think that's the takeaway on this, is that you can show some immediate results to somebody, that says, hey, I do know what I'm doing. I can get something out there immediately. It won't last forever, but I can, we can get something out there to start building the brand or whatever. And I think that it was pretty exciting. Now, there's some other stuff that happened in result.
Yeah.
Some kind of some negative stuff that happened, and Craig reached out to me, again, because we were doing pretty good. I was holding my own, even while I was sleeping, and they're doing a lot of work. And then I get a message from Craig. He was like, now you're playing nasty. And I thought, what? I'm not doing anything. But his business profile automatically updated with my website that was brand new, that really didn't have much content on it and just a bunch of pictures, and took out his website.
The thing that you have to do is you have to read the text. So it says your business profile has been updated. Your business profile has recently been updated, either through user feedback or through our automated systems.
Yeah, he thought that I had done it through user feedback, and I said I did not. I didn't even think about doing that.
Yeah,
it didn't even cross my mind.
So Google has some technology for identifying the brand, and since Craig was using Image SEO King like a brand all over everything he was doing, Google assumed that the exact match domain was part of the brand and swapped it for him.
And so maybe it was in part because it was all happening at the same time, in the same quick period of time.
Yeah.
This new domain comes about, and Craig's out there promoting that everything with that keyword.
Yeah, and this is an important lesson. Claim your brands. If you have a brand, claim it. Even if you don't use it, let it collect dust in your accounts, and so other people can leverage it.
I think the more important lesson is he did claim his brand, and then Google took it upon themselves to change it and reassociate it without any interaction from him.
Right.
So to me,
it's scary.
This is a bad, like any business somebody can do this to any business, and do it in 24 hours. And to me, that's just crap. That's worse than map spam that everyone cries about. That's just, using the system. Google has put a system in place that will let thieves take over your business profile.
Right. And this wasn't even intentional. Like,
Exactly.
I didn't even do it. And he actually had to change it back twice. Like, it did it 2 times within, a 12-hour period of time. So that to me was a little bit scary, because I thought, I can't believe that they would do that unless there really was somebody else, who was trying to change it. But that's kind of crappy. I mean, I wouldn't do that to anybody,
It'd be easy enough to look through local search, find a business, Joe's Chicago Pizza or whatever, and go buy that domain, and let Google do the rest, and put whatever you want on that domain. I mean, it's kind of frightening that, Google would just take it on themselves to help out.
Yeah, and Google can take away the option for the public to change it, but unless Google takes away their automated option, this will still happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So brand jacking got revealed in this little image fun, the image shenanigans. That was, pretty cool to see that. I mean, scary, but it was cool. You never know what you're going to find when you dive into one of these things and you're trying a whole bunch of different crazy stuff at once.
I
Well,
think automated brand jacking was outed. This is going on and continues to go on to real businesses and maps, because if you have a high enough local what the hell is that, local advocate or whatever it's called, if you're a level 10, I can go around the different maps and change their website URLs all day long, and Google will force that change. And as a business owner, I can't even go in and say, no, don't do that. I have to rechange my info and then risk my map getting suspended, because it's got systems in place that let local people, local guides change that information as whatever you want. So this is one of the reasons I despise maps. I hate the program. I think that it's garbage. I don't even blame SEOs that are doing the fake maps. Cool, I get it, fake maps, whatever. But what Google has put in place, it just totally screws business owners. And now there's so-called white hat SEO thieves charging people $79 to watch your maps and say if it's going to get suspended or not. That's their monthly recurring. And this is just part of that continuation garbage. But don't mind me, Ted. I just get pissed off about this map stuff because it's
I like it. Yeah, there's injustice happening, and it was engineered by Google, and Google is in a place where they could fix it, and they won't. I guarantee Google won't fix that. Yeah, there's just no reason for them to. And so, yeah, that's pretty horrible.
Well, I mean, you got to look at it from their standpoint. Most of the time, this is probably correct and advantageous. It's just, every so often you get those false positives, whether by accident or whether engineered to be, a takeover. So they're not going to change that.
We don't care. We don't have to. We're Google.
Well, they also don't want to change it because if the map spam, let's take that for instance. If you use the map spam, typically you're an affiliate. If you're in home services, you're typically affiliate for Angie's List and Home Advisor, which are owned by the same company. And Google promotes those types of websites ahead of actual local businesses. And why do they do it? To get the local businesses to actually spend money on ads. Yep. So they're not going to fix it. It's not because they don't want the maps messed up. They could give two shits less. They figured out how to monetize it by letting the affiliates spam it, letting all this kind of stuff go on. Real businesses get frustrated and say, I give up with SEO and maps. I'm just going to go buy ads. And that's how they make $33 billion in a quarter.
Yeah. People don't realize it, but when Google delivers misery to online business owners, those business owners typically respond by buying pay-per-click ads. And so it's really important that if you're a small business and Google dishes out misery to you, that you make an active effort to not throw money at Google in response. You need to take that ad spend and throw it at a competitor or somewhere else, because if you show Google that they can screw you over and you'll respond by throwing money at them, guess what's going to happen again? So yeah, you got to speak with your money, and too few online marketers do that.
So public service, buy your branded domains to protect your butt.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. If your brand is imageseoking.com, or Image SEO King, just get imageseoking.com. It's a cost of a domain and you can own it, and you don't want to have to buy it at auction later.
Right.
All right, final results.
See the final results. So this was the final results in images because that was the contest. And
Number
So,
one,
that,
Madge's, and that was from a press release he did shortly before the contest ended.
right, because timing is everything on those press releases we discovered.
So the Magic PR one in the corner, that's Madge's service. And then you got Craig Campbell. You see his photo there with Image SEO King. Who had the crown one that's in the third place?
Craig Gaines, I believe he's in that mastermind, I believe.
Okay,
Right.
and then it was Terry Powers with the black crown.
Yeah.
And then Honey had the honey badgers. And so I see two on the screen now, but I remember looking towards the end, you had like 5 or 10 in there at one point.
I did, yeah. We were in there a lot. We weren't in the top. And I think that Terry has 2 in there, if I'm not.
The chess.
The chess set one is the one that was an original. I mean, after I created the image and put it up, then I took it down later and changed it out for a different image, but that image still was ranking. So
Now there's a couple of other things that are interesting. I mean, the bottom left, you can see another one of Honey's, that little light blue one. But the interesting thing is when this started, there were no entities at the top. And if you look at the third one from the left up there, keyword stuffing.
Oh, the little tiny icons at the top. The third icon is the honey badger image that's in the number 5 spot in the results.
Associated with keyword stuffing, which was the strategy.
Nice.
And I think there was.
Well, I think they pulled that out of the name of one of my YouTube channels. That was, is this keyword stuffing?
Yeah.
And I think that's where they pulled that from.
And I believe that first image in those entities is Madge's as well for Global Newswire.
Yeah. Which Craig also used. So they both had Global Newswire things.
Oh yeah,
which is apparently a powerful service because they did get the 1 and 2 spots using Global Newswire versus any other press release company.
Yeah, I know that the premium service of Press Advantage goes out to Global Newswire and finance.yahoo.com. So that's like part of their premium. I don't know if it's part of Madge's premium service or not, but on Press Advantage, it does go out to those publications for a PR release as a premium service.
Honey, do you have the organic results there for this?
I do.
As well? Yeah, okay. So that's easier to, I think, for people to see. You can see the Global Newswire press releases 1 and 2 on the organic side of this ranking.
Yeah, that'll be Madge and Craig Campbell. And of course, then I'm still third. And I think that Madge said yesterday that he waited really to the last minute, to put his in. And that was the key. It's timing. So, ours was still, we had a press release getting ready to come out, but it was still under review. So it hadn't been released yet.
Yep. It hit the SERPs 2 hours after the competition ended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Holly Starks is in the YouTube chat. She's saying they need to redo the contest and not allow press releases of any kind and see what shows up then. That would be interesting to see what kind of fundamentals. And of course, when she's not on vacation, because she has a lot of resources to focus too. But yeah, it would be interesting, like if there was a no backlinks type of contest for image SEO, maybe slightly longer duration, make it a week. that would be kind of a cool contest to see what fundamentals of SEO people can leverage to get to the top. Yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
Well, I'm happy to say my number 4 ranking there did not include a press release. So I didn't do a press release. So
is that your, that's yours, SEO King?
With the black crown?
The black crown on the white skull is mine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, not on a press release. It's on a website of mine. And I believe the H1 was Image SEO King to be crowned, or will it be a queen? Since I knew Honey had entered it. So
Right. And then I went ahead and looked on Bing just to see, what does Bing do with all this stuff going on?
You got number 1 in Bing.
Yeah. Quickly.
Very cool. So yeah, that's another thing you can do. I know a lot of people who are international don't care about the Bing results, but in certain niches in the United States and Canada, Bing can be a big deal. Mm-hmm. So it's cool to see that that's possible too, getting number 1 in Bing.
Right. And this is with the image search in Bing. So you also have where the PR results are coming in.
Yep.
And then actually that number 4, even though it's using a different image, that SEO King YouTube, I'm pretty sure that's mine.
Now, most people are probably glossing over here, but look
Maybe not.
for the honey badgers. And you'll notice that she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the results there in the top results.
The fun part about it is you learn, like, okay, if there is another competition like this that's really quick, you don't do 10 videos, you do 50, and then it's all then people have to wade through the mass, because YouTube on both platforms is given some favor within the first 24 hours, which is what you need to rank in a short
I also
duration.
would like to point out that down on the bottom row, it's like half cut off, is that QR code. And I think that's Terry's.
That is. That is. Thanks to Patch and my Google approved news site that got that QR code ranking.
Yeah, Madge is commenting now that he didn't know that he had won Bing as well. Yeah, congratulations, Madge.
Taking over. So then I took a screenshot yesterday because I thought, 10 days after the competition, where are we at in organic? And the PR results are holding strong. And then YouTube, and then Craig comes in with his .com.
The Patch article at the bottom of that list,
Terry.
which isn't at the bottom of the page quite, but I mean.
Right. And that was one that I put in late, Terry, this Image SEO King Queen competition crasher.
That was Terry's on Patch.
Is that Terry's?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It could have been anybody using Patch, but I know I did use Patch, but
Did anyone try Reddit? We got a question asking if anyone tried.
I thought I saw some Reddit showing up.
I did put a link on Reddit to that link wheel I built.
Yeah, somebody else tried to put their image on Reddit, and it was showing in organic for a little bit, and then it kind of disappeared. So I don't know, whether it moved down to 8, 9, or completely disappeared. I don't know what the final results were for Reddit.
And Reddit can be picky. They can decide to take it out of there at some point also. So.
On the image results down in the far right corner, I see a reddit.com.
Yeah.
So one of the things I like about this show is the pure density of little tiny tactical tips. So if you do image SEO at all, you'll probably want to watch the show again and listen to the little tiny tactics that were mentioned throughout this, because there were probably 30 or 40 separate image SEO tactics that all these people put into play. And so, yeah, there's a lot to unpack here if you do image SEO. What do you think, Clint? You do a little image SEO now and again.
Only like my image SEO is kind of limited to Pinterest. So to me, I think in this case, that's cool, but no one goes over there. You know what I mean? So the Google Images thing, I go in there when I'm looking to steal images for stuff, but for the most part, I don't mess around with it. So like the value, what is the value long term? It's kind of how I was looking at it after you get through the excitement of look what we did and this is awesome. But now what?
So
Well,
what do you think, Lee?
we were talking about a couple of things with this. There are, I hadn't really thought about it, but there was someone I was talking to that said that they had a client who had an image that was a bad image. You know, think of it as a mug shot, you know, image when you search for their name in the image results. So one of the ways that you can, you know, you can push that down by developing a whole bunch of other images and SEOing them. You know, I hadn't really thought about reputation management in the image realm. Usually you're trying to push a search result, you know, down. But on the timing matters. You know, we found that when you release your YouTube videos, you know, when you release your press releases, there is a freshness advantage there. So in, you know, a short duration contest, you want to do it. But from a pragmatic standpoint, you know, you can link build using press releases to the second press release that Honey issued linked back to her YouTube stuff, which linked to her specific images on the website. And that's probably, you know, a combination of those things is what's pushing those images up there. So imagine if you had, you know, 40 or 50 images, you know, you'd never find the bad one, you know, if you were trying to do some sort of reputation management.
Unlike a lot of SEO tests you might try, though, with this, we threw several things out there, not certain still if any of them did nothing, or whether it was the combination that worked more than just doing this and this, and those other three things didn't really help, you know, but still, we know if we do that much, we're going to get some results.
Yeah, well, the initial strategy that, you know, Honey had put up there, a website, a brand new website, so we don't know if anything's going to be there, with images on it and a press release to it, hopefully got the images moved over. You know, we could have had a ghost town in terms of that strategy. You know, we didn't know, you know, what would go quickly. But, you know, as we watched what everybody else was doing, and, you know, we saw some strategies that were working, we could evolve strategies to, you know, take advantage of things. And it wasn't until the very end, when you look back on the whole thing, you go, man, if you'd have waited to the last minute, you know, the last couple of hours to launch, you know, you would have owned this competition.
Right. I was just thinking if I would have scheduled my PR releases like they would already been approved, and then they would have gone out at a certain time, which you can do with Press Advantage, is that you can schedule your releases. I thought, oh, I should have taken advantage of that and scheduled it to come out, you know, closer to time. And then it might have made a difference, but I don't know. You know, the premium distribution, you know, clearly works, you know, on getting stuff out there. And number one, both in images and in organic. So that's pretty powerful for anyone that's using a premium Press Advantage or press release service, you know. So that was,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just, so, you know, that was good to know. And I think Madge probably knows a lot of the secrets in regard to the timing. He's probably figured that out with his service.
Yeah,
he
this
offers.
quickly devolved into a press release fight.
It really did. But I mean,
At which point
YouTube,
it wasn't
you know,
image SEO.
so if you took press releases out of it, then it seemed like YouTube was the next thing that was pretty powerful
But you
on
know what,
bringing images up.
that's interesting. But I would also say, because Terry didn't use YouTube, he used Patch. And the
Yeah, I was
don't
getting
know
ready to
if
say
Patch is a
patch.com
combination.
put some stuff out really fast, and it was easy to set up because after I saw his patch images coming up, I thought, oh, I'll set up a patch account, which was really easy and quick. And it did show up, really, really fast, but not powerful enough to take over the press releases.
Yeah, Holly mentioned earlier that she thought that Patch would have won out without the press releases in play. And she's mentioning that Patch is in Google News. That is why it's such a powerful platform. So there may be something to that as a tactic for image SEO in the absence of press releases.
Mm-hmm.
Even for organic SEO, Patch works really well. If anybody's listening and wants to get something out there quick and get it on the front page, if you put a Patch article up and then hit it with a few links.
Yeah,
and that was one of the things that I learned here, is that I had never even heard of patch.com before. I've never even heard of it. And so this was something that I learned. It's like, hey, there's these other options. Twitter also comes out with stuff really fast. I didn't use Twitter, but it did. There was lots of Twitter accounts on there that showed up. So Twitter's a good one. Patch.com is a good one. And so those were things that were great takeaways.
Carolyn is commenting, Ted, I'm surprised you haven't jumped on this for e-commerce pictures of products based on what they are versus, what airy fairy brand name. Yeah, this has been out there for a while. I think a lot of it's done in Pinterest, and a lot of the work I've done in the past has been on multiple platforms, and it was all part of that strategy of, whatever real estate you can take on page one is worth taking. So we would take, all the organic rankings. So we'd be, all of page one organically, half of page two. We would typically get like the top 2 or 3 of the pay-per-click ads. And then we try to get, any news ads, any shopping ads, the Merchant Center product carousels. We'd also get the image and video carousels. And yeah, we would just try to claim it all. So yeah, some of this stuff definitely applies to e-commerce. Absolutely.
One drawback, if you were an SEO consultant whose main niche was professional photographers and thought of yourself as an image SEO king, oops, you're gone now. I mean, so.
Yeah, does anybody believe that the metadata that's contained within images would have played a strong role in this contest?
I didn't worry about that, but I did put the text not just visibly, but also invisibly in my images.
I did too.
I'm shocked at such tactics. But the other thing that's interesting is, we don't know, like several of the images had, the keyword on it. We don't know if Google's OCR has kicked in, because if you watch, if their OCR is processed, weekly or monthly, these results will shift again, when those images that have the keyword on them, get processed and they get credit for those, that particular SEO factor.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with the image OCR at Google because I get really excited and love it when I see it working in your tests. And then I get really mad when it does nothing in my tests. So what's the deal with Google's OCR?
For those of you who don't speak geek, that's optical character recognition. It just means reading those letters and understanding what that they're combined to form words and knowing what those words mean.
Yeah, honey, you did a bunch of testing on the OCR. You know, what's the common reason for failure for the OCR to read it?
Just like the font, you know, it messes up like I's and L's and letters that are kind of commonly that are shaped similar, and some of the different fonts, you know, especially like a script or something like that, it'll confuse like H's with B's and that kind of stuff. So it makes it hard to read words.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes if you know, if
depending on the font or if it's too close together, you know.
Honey, you mentioned that you hid the image or the text in your image. Does Google still find it? Can you use Google Vision?
Not on OCR, it doesn't. And I don't know if it does.
In the layers, it does in the layers, yeah.
How do you proven that it's seeing it in the layers?
Terry, you want to open up a little on sort of the A methodology?
Well, you can, you don't have to have Photoshop. You can, you know, use your Mac or your PC with their inbuilt program and take a picture, say it's 800 by 600, and another picture that's 800 by 600, and put it on top, cover it one with another and another and another. And by magic, Google can see all those pictures.
How are you proving it though? What is your basis for saying Google's doing it? Like, do you use Google Lens? Do you use Google Vision, or are you just putting it in there?
When I had my Pixel phone, I did use Google Lens. Okay. And you can you can, you know, Google will tell you what it's seeing and go find something on the web that compares to whatever you're seeing.
Yep.
And it can pick out a pair of Converse that's covered by a picture of a flower. Picks up the flower too. Now, neither of those, I don't think they look at the Converse and can tell by the words on the label, you know, on an image, but I don't think it's OCR necessarily with those, but they are seeing the layered images. Now, I guess you could test by putting in one layer out of, say, 3 actual particular text and see if that text shows up. I mean, if that image shows up for that keyword somewhere, not necessarily at the top, just anywhere.
And that's been done sort of white text on a white background. Yeah. So you're not doing it via OCR. You're having to pull it, a different way.
Yeah. So if you take and convert an image to code, which I assume is what Google looks at, that stuff's in the code. What's in the image? You know what I mean?
There are some image formats that will have text layers, and so I know like Photoshop files behave like that, and there are some others. So that, depending upon how it was made, what tools made it, what image format it is, the text information of the image may also be tucked in the binary as text.
Yeah, you can take an image, a JPEG, and decode it with hex code, and you can see in the hex code. You can't read it as a human, but theoretically the bots can, and you can drop your schema in there or an article or whatever else, as long as the whatever you're uploading it to doesn't modify it, all that stuff will stick. So I get that. I'm just trying to figure out how, like you guys said, that, like, as if it was doing something, I hid my text in my image. And I just try, and there's two tools that I know of. It's the Vision API, and then there's Google Lens, which is the mobile app that is run off the Vision API to read that. So just trying to figure out how someone else can go and say, I learned this from Honey. This is awesome. But how do I know Google's reading it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and the only way I could see it is Vision. So unless,
Yeah, I've had a real hard time with text and images, in that I've seen a lot of, independent people who I know and trust test it and got results. But then I also have my own experience where I try to test it and I never get results.
yeah.
So
Well, I get the same, like the OCR leverage that Lee was talking about, having the words, and like Honey tested, having the words there and letting Google read it. I mean, that works all day long. And you can see yourself. You just drop it in the Vision and the API will spit out the words and you make sure it's reading it right.
Right.
But like the EXIF test and all those things, I've never had one of those actually prove to be workable.
I didn't mess with the metadata, but I figured I would stuff the image with that keyword as much as I could. But I wanted to also make it perfectly visible for the human eye, but so Google could read it with its OCR. Not certain that it would matter if I had it in there 100 times versus just the once visibly. But since there were no rules anyway, I went ahead and stuffed the
It was
keyword.
sort of like throwing the kitchen sink,
Yeah.
And hey, it might work in 24 hours.
I'm not discounting you guys doing it. I'm questioning, was there a point in doing it? And because like Ted and I have talked, people listen to us and they go, oh, they're doing it, so let me do that. But was there a point? Right.
Well,
so how do you know it was read? How do you know that had an effect? Those are all things that you should probably be doing and looking at before you go make 1,000 images with text in the background and think, yeah, I'm going to rank now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think any of us is claiming that this specific tactic.
I'm not saying you are, Terry. I'm saying that people are out there and listen to these shows and gonna do that. They're going to say
I'm saying that for their sake. I know what you're saying, but just I don't want people to think, take one of the methods we talked about and count on that, spend all your money behind that, because we can't speak that any one of those tactics made particularly a difference.
Well,
and honestly, I don't think that I would do it on a money site. I would not.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be worth the risk, to me.
Let me break in here because
this is Fight Club. You can't break into Fight Club.
I can break into Fight Club because I have a few interesting comments I want to get to too, and we're quickly running out of time.
Okay.
So Madge wanted to mention that he didn't just do a PR blast. So this whole kind of show we talked about is press releases, but he actually did more than that. And I think that's a fair comment that needs calling out.
Yes.
He used YouTube and Twitter moments stacks and an embed blast. And he said that he has other tactics that he didn't talk about. And I know that in his press release service, he combines a lot of different things to get good results for people when they craft the press release on your behalf. So there's probably a lot of that was brought into play that we didn't mention, but was probably a part of this contest.
Feels good to know he had to work for it a little.
Yeah. And then Florin is mentioning it's hard to believe that all image tools are keeping all the layers inside. And, I wouldn't say that all image tools do that for all formats. I do know, having worked with Photoshop and exporting to like layered PNGs, that my text layers, even, not in the EXIF data, but in the file format itself, those text layers were still text. And so, depending upon what software you use and what formats you're doing that can support that, it can happen. Not that it always does. And then, I also want to mention that, clearly, images and text recognition in images is an area of SEO that needs more testing. I think everybody agrees that more testing is needed and things can change. I do know that there were times when everybody was saying, text and images is amazing. There are YouTube videos out there of people saying, I put my URLs and images and things blew up, and none of that works now, but it might have in the past. It might have, we don't know. So yeah, we need to test more, obviously. So with that, I want to give Honey the last word on this, because she put together this presentation and she picked up the torch and hijacked a contest and caused all this calamity. So how would you like to close it out, Honey?
Well, I think I just want to say that I know that these short-term contests probably really don't show much, but it was a huge amount of fun. It was a break from the regular stuff that we do all the time. It was great to be able to collaborate with a variety of people and to find out what other people did. I would do it again. I want to add one more thing, and that is like Craig is super competitive. He's a crazy competitive guy. It was a huge amount of fun. I told him that I really enjoyed it, and I had a great time. I learned a lot, and that's what's fun about this kind of stuff. I think we need to have things that we do a little more often like this, just because it does break us away from our regular, routines of stuff that we do. We need to have fun at our jobs also.
Yeah, I saw a comment that they don't see the exact match domain rankings still. So I went to go take a look, and in an unquoted search, I don't see it. But what's cracking me up is I see Simon White SEO is in on the game. So yeah, it looks like more people are party crashing.
Right. So like I said, I mean, some of the stuff that we did, I wouldn't do for a money page for sure. I'm sure that our page got taken down. We had a lot of stuffing on there and not a lot of content. So
yeah, there's probably some narc SEO at some point. Oh no, I see it in the index, so it wasn't penalized. Something else happened.
Still number one in Bing too.
Are people who are members of his mastermind, I'm sure. So
yeah.
Well, he may have been trying to take it down, Craig, just because it kept replacing his page on his Google business. So he's probably, if I were him, that's what I would be doing.
Yeah, so it fell to page 2 from where I'm searching from. So with that, we'll call it a show. Thank you, everyone. Hope you got some cool nuggets out of this if you do image SEO, or had a laugh at the calamity that was this contest. And congratulations to Madge for winning it. I use his press release service. I use Press Advantage too. I like them both. Yeah, they're good services. And with that, I'll talk to everyone next time. Have a good one.